like this. And we have a fairly real, not a bad animation for just spending 10 minutes on it, of the car coming towards us. Now, there's other things we can do as well. All right? We showed how we can go and we can change the size of the symbol as it moves across. There's other aspects that we can change as well. For example, if we click on this color effect, alpha, we can actually start out with the car being not as visible. In other words, being a little bit transparent. That's what the alpha effect says. So I can go and move that down. And then in the last frame, I can go and I can make that car be fully bright. So let's see if that helps at all in the realism of it. If it makes it look a little more like it's coming towards us. Not really. But you can do that. All right. We may think of some other examples of where we would want to do that. So I'll actually go and undo that. Go here. Select that. And we'll put alpha back up to 100%. All right. Now, let's say this was a little animation for an engine coolant. What's a brand for engine coolant? Prestone. There you go. And let's say I want to have some text come in here and say, Prestone, gee, we really have a great coolant. It even works in the desert. You can tell why I'm not in marketing, right? That isn't a very pithy saying. How could we have text come in? Well, you notice there's a text control somewhere that we can go and we can go type something in. And so we could go very easily go and we could put that on the background if we wanted to. So I could go here, click text. I could, make it big. Press stone like that. Alright. Let's say I wanted it to fade in now. How could I make it fade in? I think I'm hearing the right answer, but
animated, change the alpha.
Yeah. Well, there's something we have to do first before we can do that, but you're absolutely right. Make it into a symbol. Right? We make it into a symbol, then we can animate it and we can use the tween to make it move, make it fade in, make the color change, whatever. So let's go and let's get rid of this one. Alright. And we want to animate it, so we better put it on its own layer, right? So I will go here, right mouse, and say Insert Layer. Alright. I'm going to hide the other layers. Press down. Okay. I can then select that and say Convert to Symbol. Oops. couldn't I select that? I was on the wrong layer. Or I was actually on the car layer. Oops. Still on the wrong layer. Alright. Let's turn all those off. See, it's not on that. Oh, I gotta get. What frame is it? It's on the back. I can cut it. And paste it on the keyframe of that layer. And I can go and say, logo or something like that. Now you know, of course, that I never make mistakes. Therefore, when we have things like that, that's an illustration of how messed up you can get yourself if you're not clicking on the right place. On a serious note, that's what I do all the time. Anytime I run into the problems in Flash, I won't say anytime, but most of the times I run into problems at Flash is because I'm not 100% paying attention of where I am. And by where I am, I mean what layer I'm on, what frame I'm on, and what object I'm pointing at. All right. So in that case, I had it in my head that I was on layer 4, but I clearly wasn't. Therefore, I sat here scratching my head wondering why I couldn't select it. So that's something you always have to be aware of. Now, this is a symbol. And now we can go in and we can create a motion tween. And we can even go in and do things like in the first frame, darn, it's now on layer 5 somehow. Now I can go in here and if I want to set the size of it small, go into the last frame and make it bigger. And now it'll sort of go and zoom in. So if we look at everything together, we see that. Now, we can do some of the other manipulations that we talked about. If we wanted it to fade in, we could go in here and say alpha. Again, remember where we are in frame 1. Alpha we could set to 0. And in this frame we could set the alpha to 100%. And then it will fade in. We could also change the color of that. So we could go back to the first frame, could change the tint of it and make the text, let's say, white, and then in the last frame change it to some other color, red. So the color itself will sort of do a tween, and it will mutate itself from white to shades of pink to red. So a lot of great things that you can do, again, without painstakingly going in and doing them by hand. You always have that option, right? If there's something that it doesn't do for you, you always have the option to go and do it yourself. Like, for example, if in that last frame I wanted to bang pop up some more text, I could just go in and add a frame after all these that bang popped up the text, or was a different image or something like that. Now, I want to give you time to practice these sorts of things. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. We'll talk about one more thing. We'll talk about exporting the stuff, then we'll give you time to practice. The one more thing to talk about is we could actually, now that we have this car as a symbol, we can go to the library, all right, and we can add another layer, and we could add a second car. And we can give it a motion tween. And do all the things that we want to for that. If you don't want the cars looking the same, you could even go in and, on this guy, go in and change the color a little bit. Change the tint of that so that maybe instead of being pink, it was more of a shade of purple. Or more of a, let's go like that. So you can even actually change the tint of it a little bit. And so even though it's two cars, it doesn't look like two cars, right? There's other things that you can do with this, you know. You could change the size of them, so one of them looks like big, one of them looks little, and so on. That's like, again, I think I mentioned in lab on last week that, you know, if you look in the background of a video game, a sporting events video game, you'll see that there's only 5 or 6, you know, people, spectators in the stands. And those 5 or 6 are repeated a bunch of times, right? And they could play around with the coloring if they wanted to make it look, you know, to make it actually look like different people. But that way, hey, you don't have to animate every little thing. Now, I think we have enough now, based on what we've gone over, for you to do at least a simple animation that maybe could add a little bit of interest to your page. We saw how to fade text in. How do you suppose you can make text going across, like a scroll? That might be something to try to do. Or make it drop down from the top. Or make it do like the Star Wars effect, where it scrolls. Ooh, that could be good. All right. What I want to do now is I want to give you time. You know, we still have 10 minutes left of the lecture. I want to give you some time to play with this. So play with this. You can continue to play with it into the lab time. Or you can, during the lab time, work on your assignment. So we'll see you over there.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Is the diamond at the end, is that an ending keyframe as opposed to a dark circle?
That is a good question.
When I was doing preset motions, they had a lot of diamonds as well.
That is a good question. I would guess that means that that is the end of a motion tween. I would guess, but I can't say that for absolutely sure.